Welcome back to another episode of Navigating Single Fatherhood. I'm your host, Jay Lewis, and today I have an incredible guest. As a matter of fact, I'm going to give you a real quick rundown with this man. I have known this man for over 35 years. We went to college together.
Yes, sir.
It was interesting because unfortunately we had a circumstance similar. We both lost our wives. So he reached out to me and we built this dialogue. Because I do what I do, I wanted to invite him on the show to be able to talk about his experience and to talk about a lot of the things that he has been able to do to navigate through his challenges. So, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Talib Hamilton.
Glad to be here, brother.
Hey, I appreciate you coming, like I said. Share a little bit about your experience and what was the reason that actually brought you to being able to reach out to somebody like me?
Absolutely. So I was married to my son's mother. She had a son when we got together, and then we had a son from our union. We separated when my youngest was 2 and ultimately divorced. But when my son was 3 years old, he came to live with me. Of course, we went through a rough patch for a few years after the divorce, but eventually got to a good place and became friends again. Shortly after we got to this place, this good place, she was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer and was given 8 months to live. And in about 8 months, she was gone. You know, my youngest, who was 7 at the time, was already living with me, so he stayed with me. And my stepson, who was 16, went to live with his grandmother. But her death definitely started me on my single father journey. And then, of course, after I heard about Kim and what happened with you and your family, I reached out to you, brother, because our story is not the same, but it is similar, and the pain is the same, but just a little different. But yeah, I had to reach out to my partner.
Hey man, and I appreciate you reaching out to me because support is a big thing
Mm-hmm.
in the very small community of single parent men, and especially the sub community of single parent men who have lost. Do you feel that you received the type of support you believe you needed from family, friends, outside sources, things like that?
Yeah. When it comes to family, I was supported in a major way, right? My village is strong. But schools, not so much. I went to war on multiple occasions as an advocate for my son, but you know me, I was relentless, bro. I mean, but
I feel you.
on top of this tragedy, he was diagnosed with ADHD, which brought on a whole nother set of challenges, right? But I stayed on their ass, man, and I held them accountable. And part of that is just me being who I am and how I was raised. And the other part is I kept hearing his mother's voice in my ear, fussing at me, talking about make sure I take care of her baby. Right. If she was around, she would have made me look like a puppy dog. Keisha did not play, and especially when it came to her children. So, knowing that kind of just kept me on my toes.
And it's interesting because branching off from that type of question, you would expect the school system to be understanding,
Absolutely.
but instead,
Respect, but
it was a challenge that you had to navigate through while you're
yeah,
dealing with the loss of your significant other, B, parenting, C, male parenting,
hmm
which is really different than dealing with single parent from a female's perspective. I mean, we talked about that before, where men have to learn how to be nurturers,
right.
not taking anything away from single parenting women, but it's like they're in they're inbred nurturers.
Mm-hmm.
And then they've been in the workforce for hundreds of years. So they have that trained perspective. We're getting the nurturing aspect from the minute something happens.
Mm-hmm.
We have to stick in there. We have to do all the things, like you said, that we need to do. We have to be that advocate on every avenue.
Right.
Has learning those different aspects helped to grow you
Okay.
as a father and as a man in general?
I got you. No, it all changed the day I became responsible for this new life, right? I had to do right. I didn't really have a choice, right? So just being a parent, period, changed me for the better, right? But, could I have done things different? Sure. But I did what I did and things turned out the way that they turned out, right? And they turned out great, if you ask me, so far. And thank God for that. But as far as strategies that work well for me, I led with love, right? And I led by example. One of my favorite quotes is by W.E.B. Du Bois, and the quote is, "Children learn more from what you are than what you say," right? So they're watching you. I can tell my son anything, but he's going to believe what he sees. So I moved accordingly. And also, when I say I led with love, I mean, I told him I loved him daily. I told him I was proud of him often. I shouldn't say I shouldn't say past tense, because this is still, to this day. But, I tell him he can talk to me about anything, and he did. I showed him affection. I gave him hugs. And there ain't nothing soft about me or him.
Right.
And you can FAFO if you want to, but ain't nothing soft about neither one of us. But men just, some of us are funny style like that, man. And I really think that boys need that from your father. You know what I'm saying? And especially when their mother, is not even around. And so,
Right.
I had a village, and he had plenty of feminine energy around him, godmother, grandmother, aunts and aunties and stuff that showered him with love. But I remembered that from our conversation, and I want to make sure that I did mention that's the strategy that worked well for me, is keeping the lines of communication open. And, like I said, just coming from a place of love, and then most importantly, leading by example, because I think I've mentioned that a couple of times in this conversation, that they're watching you. So me knowing that kept me moving a certain way.
Understandable. And now you brought up a whole new aspect, the whole concept of masculine energy versus feminine energy, and how both are needed in order to be able to successfully raise a family.
Yes, sir.
And it doesn't matter if this is a female or a male that's raising the family. A female needs to have male energy in her life in order to make sure that her children's existence is balanced. And likewise, a man needs to have that as well. And for a man, it's especially challenging because we need that support. We are not natural nurturers, like I said before. We are learned nurturers.
Yes.
And we have to lean on the feminine energy that we have known. And again, this is not about being any other certain way. This is not about that. This is about understanding that in order to properly single parent, you're going to have to be able to balance both sides. Like, it was interesting. But back in the day when Kim was alive, we used to have this concept called the rock and the feather. And of course, I was the rock, and Kim would coat everything over because she was the feather. When she died, I had to learn how to become both. As a single parent, people think you should be friends with your children. No, you should be friendly
Mm-hmm.
with your children. But also remember, you're the one that has to be disciplinarian. That's where that rock concept comes in. But then also, if you're a rock for 95% of the time, you're not going to build the relationship that you need to with that child. So therefore, you're going to have to, bring in concepts of the feather
Mm-hmm.
and be able to balance the two accordingly. So again, it's kind of
Yeah, no.
that was a great that was a
Good.
great way to be able to kind of have that extra conversation there, you
Yeah,
know,
sure.
especially to touch base. But needless to say, I just wanted to say, you know what? Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to shut this down because
Mm-hmm.
me and this man can talk forever. Honestly, Talib, again, it was just a great honor to be able to have you come on to the show and to share your insights.
Thank you for inviting me out, brother. And I'm proud of you for what you're doing. I've seen you transform, man. From definitely from college, right? Major transformation, but just after Kim died and just what you had to go through, and like you have daughters, man, and so I can't imagine what that would have been like for me to have to raise girls, right? Raising a boy to a man, like I got that. That's easy. I could do that in my sleep. But like the raising the girl thing, man. So brother, I'm proud of you, man. And this movement that you got going on, the things that you're trying to do, it's important. You never know who's going to watch this, who's going to see it, and who is going to be able to help. So, thank you for giving me opportunity. Thank you for, thinking of me. And it was my pleasure to be here. I want to shout out my village, my mom,
Please.
my aunties. Like I said, I had a lot of challenges with school. The weird part about it is like when he was younger, which is the time that you think that they would really be empathetic and be there for you is when they weren't, right? But when he got, my son is an athlete, and so he got recruited to go to a high school for his last 2 years, and it was a private school, and we got a lot of support there. So shout out to the Wilson Academy in Conyers, their headmaster Byron Wilson, and some of the teachers there. They offered a lot of support, So I'm just grateful for the support that I've had, and grateful to the Most High, for allowing me to be who I am, for my son, right? And so, yeah, man, I appreciate it. I appreciate the opportunity. This was good times, and then we'll be talking soon and for hours, normally.
Definitely. Definitely. Hey, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming to another episode of the show because again, it's important. You got learning how to navigate the single father experience